factoring using 1am. So it's important to recognize that here we're really just factoring a trinomial. The method we call 1am because of a trick that we use with the factors. And let's talk about why we call it that. So if we were to take a look at the example that we had on the front page, which is x squared plus 5x plus 6, we would note that the number in front of the x squared here is a 1. So that's where the 1 comes from in 1am. If there's a 1 in front of the x squared, we know that the two numbers in our factor are going to add to a positive 5 in this case and multiply to a positive 6. So that's where the 1am comes from. 1, add, multiply. Now, in order to start off my factor, it'll always be the same as long as it's x. They'll both start with x. So I'm going to throw an x in each parentheses. Obviously, if our letter changes, we would change that letter as well. But as long as there's a 1 in front of the x squared, our factors will start in this manner. Now we're going to take a look and we're going to try to find all the factors of positive 6. So signs are important here. We need to make sure we exhaust all possible factors. So if I take the number 6 and I divide it by 1, I see that 1 times 6 will give me 6. And also, conversely, I know that negative 1 times negative 6 will also give me positive 6. So it's really important to remember our sign rules here. To get our next factor, we're going to take 6 and divide it by 2. 2 times 3 will give me 6, and negative 2 times negative 3 will give me 6. Now, if I were to keep on going with my division and divide by 3, I would notice that 3 is already on my list, and I would start repeating. That's how I know that I'm finished. So in order to figure out which of these sets of factors is going to go into our multiples down here, we're going to see which ones add to positive 5. So let's take a look. 1 plus 6 is 7. Negative 1 plus negative 6 is negative 7. 2 plus 3 is 5. And negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. So which set of factors is going to add to 5? 2 and 3. So that means I'm just going to put plus 2 because it's positive and plus 3 because that is positive as well into my factors. So x squared plus 5x plus 6 can be broken into a product of two binomials, them being x plus 2 times x plus 3. Let's take a look at another example. So again, I'm allowed to use 1am as long as my leading coefficient in front of my x squared term is 1. So if I start with x squared minus 8x plus 12, I would be able to use the same method because there's a 1 in front of this x squared. So that means I need factors that add to a negative 8 this time. The sign is very important. Make sure you carry that sign with your number. And multiply to a positive 12. Again, signs are extremely important. You can go ahead and start your factors off because since it starts with an x squared, you know they're both going to start with an x. Again, that's because it leads with a 1. And now we can get our multiples of 12. Now 12 is a much larger number than 6, but of course our numbers can get quite large. So the things I want to require you to remember here are first your sign rules, and second that you can always use a calculator to divide in. Do not let that frighten you. So I'm looking for all the numbers that multiply to positive 12. So 12 divided by 1 is 12, so 1 and 12, and remember negative 1 times negative 12 will also give me a positive 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6, so 2 and 6, or negative 2 and negative 6. 12 divided by 3 is 4, so 3 times 4, or negative 3 times negative 4. And obviously, if I was to start doing 12 divided by 4, I would repeat again. Now we can add in to find our factors, so I'm going to add each of these separately. 1 plus 12 is 13. Negative 1 plus negative 12 is negative 13. 2 plus 6 is 8. Negative 2 plus negative 6 is negative 8. 3 plus 4 is 7. And negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7. So the two numbers which are going to give me my negative 8 are this negative 2 and negative 6. And just remember, when you put them in the parentheses, put them with the signs. So x minus 2, x minus 6. It's also important to note that it doesn't matter which one I put first. As long as I put the appropriate sign with the appropriate number, multiplication is commutative, so it doesn't matter which one you write in which order. So in the first situation, we had two positives. In this situation, we had two negatives. Let's take a look at one more circumstance. So in this case, we're going to write it as x squared minus 2x minus 15. And again, there's a 1 in front of the x squared. So that means a couple of things. It means we're looking for two numbers that add to a -2. Sign is important. Multiply to a -15. Sign is important. And we know that our factors are both going to start with x. So I can write it as a product of two binomials with x in the beginning. Now I'm going to find my factors of 15. So this 15 is negative. So that is going to change the way we see things. So before we had two positives and two negatives. Here we're going to need to make sure we have opposite signs because opposite signs multiply to a negative number. So we're going to start again with 1. So 1 times -15 is -15. And -1 times +15 is also -15. So in this case, we're going to have one positive number and one negative number because we have a negative sign. 15 divided by 2 would give us a decimal, so we move on. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So we have a +3 and a -5, or a -3 and a +5. So again, we continue. If I was to take 15 and divide it by 4, I would get a decimal. If I was to take 15 and divide it by 5, I'd be back where I started. So let's take a look at these sums. 1 plus -15 is -14. -1 plus 15 is +14. 3 plus -5 is -2. And -3 plus 5 is +2. So each of these examples gives us a different sum, but the sum that we are looking for is -2. So we are going to use these two here. Again, it doesn't matter which one you write first. Just make sure that your plus sign is with your 3 and your minus sign is with your 5. So that means that x squared minus 2x minus 15 fully factored is the binomial x plus 3 times x minus 5. And that is how you factor using 1am factoring.